Pablo Escobar, the king of cocaine. In the hills of Medellin, Colombia, a boy was born in 1949 to a poor farmer and a schoolteacher. His name was Pablo Emilio Escobar Gaviria. From the beginning, he carried two things that would define his life: ambition and ruthlessness. As a teenager, he sold stolen cars and fake diplomas, whispering to his friends that he would one day become president of Colombia or die trying. But in the 1970s, Escobar found a new business, a white powder that America couldn't get enough of: cocaine. With a mix of charm and violence, Escobar built the Medellin cartel. His network smuggled cocaine in planes, submarines, even inside soccer balls. At its peak, Escobar controlled 80% of the world's cocaine trade. His empire made over $70 million every single day. He became a modern-day Robin Hood to the poor of Medellin, building schools, hospitals, and even entire neighborhoods. To many, he was a hero. To his enemies, he was a monster. Escobar believed in one rule: plata o plomo, silver or lead. Take his bribe or take his bullet. Judges, journalists, politicians, thousands were assassinated. He even bombed a passenger plane to kill one rival. By the late 1980s, he was one of the richest men in history, with a fortune of more than $30 billion. Yet he couldn't escape the violence he unleashed. The Colombian government, backed by the United States, hunted him relentlessly. In 1993, Pablo Escobar was cornered on a rooftop in Medellin. Surrounded by police, he tried to run, but was gunned down. Some say he shot himself rather than be captured. Escobar's death ended a reign of terror, but his shadow still lingers. He was a man who gave bread to the poor and blood to the streets. To this day, Pablo Escobar remains a legend, half saint, half devil. Joaquin El Chapo Guzman. Joaquin Guzman, better known as El Chapo, was born in 1957 in the rugged mountains of Sinaloa, Mexico, one of the poorest regions in the country. His family was so poor that he sold oranges on the streets as a child. But poverty gave him something else: ambition. By his teens, El Chapo entered the drug trade. He started small, working under local marijuana and poppy growers. But his intelligence, ruthlessness, and ability to move product made him stand out. In the 1980s, he rose through the Guadalajara cartel before founding his own, the Sinaloa cartel. El Chapo wasn't just another trafficker, he was a genius of logistics. He built elaborate tunnels under the US-Mexico border, some with electricity and rail systems. His cartel became the largest supplier of cocaine, heroin, meth, and marijuana into the United States. At his peak, Forbes estimated his wealth at over $14 billion. But what made El Chapo legendary wasn't just his empire, it was his escapes. Arrested multiple times, he slipped out of prison through bribes, disguises, and tunnels. In 2015, he escaped through a mile-long tunnel that opened right into his prison shower. The world called him unstoppable. Yet his reign couldn't last forever. In 2016, he was captured for the final time. Extradited to the US, he now serves a life sentence in America's most secure prison, ADX Florence. To his supporters, El Chapo is a folk hero who rose from nothing. To his enemies, he's a ruthless killer who left blood on every street his drugs touched. Either way, he became the face of modern organized crime. Al Capone, the untouchable king of Chicago. Alphonse Gabriel Capone was born in 1899 to Italian immigrants in Brooklyn. He wasn't born a gangster, but the streets shaped him. By his teens, he was running with gangs, quick with his fists, and even quicker with ambition. A scar from a bar fight earned him the nickname Scarface, though he hated it. Capone's true rise began when he moved to Chicago during Prohibition, the era when alcohol was outlawed, but demand never stopped. He saw opportunity where others saw risk. Bootlegging beer and whiskey, running speakeasies, and bribing politicians, Capone built an empire worth tens of millions a year. At just 26 years old, he became the boss of the Chicago outfit. His reach was everywhere: alcohol, gambling, prostitution, and even politics. He was both feared and admired. Poor families saw him as a Robin Hood, handing out food and money during the Depression. But Capone's empire was drenched in blood. The infamous St. Valentine's Day Massacre in 1929 left 7 rivals dead, shocking the nation and cementing his image as a ruthless kingpin. For years, the FBI tried to bring him down, but bullets and bribes kept him untouchable. In the end, it wasn't murder or bootlegging that destroyed him. It was tax evasion. In 1931, Capone was convicted and sentenced to 11 years in prison. By the time he was released, syphilis had ravaged his mind. He died in 1947, just 48 years old, once the most feared man in America, reduced to a broken shadow. Griselda Blanco, the cocaine godmother. Griselda Blanco was born in 1943 in Colombia into a world of poverty and violence. By her teens, she was already a thief and a killer, hardened by the streets of Medellin. She immigrated to the U.S., and there she saw the rising appetite for cocaine. Blanco became one of the first to smuggle Colombian cocaine into Miami, and she built an empire that changed the drug trade forever. Known as the cocaine godmother, or the Black Widow, Blanco ruled with ruthless precision. She pioneered trafficking routes from Colombia to the U.S. using women, children, and even lingerie with hidden compartments. At her peak in the 1970s and 80s, she was moving tons of cocaine every month and making millions a day. But her empire wasn't built only on smuggling, it was fueled by violence. Blanco was suspected of ordering hundreds of murders, including rivals, lovers, and even her own husband. Miami became a war zone during the cocaine cowboy era, much of it tied to her reign of terror. Her lavish life included mansions, luxury cars, and a reputation for being as feared as any man in the cartel world. But in 1985, the DEA finally caught her. She was sentenced to decades in prison, and when she was released in 2004, she returned quietly to Medellin. For years she lived in the shadows, but in 2012, at age 69, she was gunned down outside a butcher shop, killed in the very city where her empire was born. John Gotti, the Dapper Don. John Gotti was born in 1940 in the Bronx, one of 13 children in a poor Italian-American family. From the start, he was drawn to the mob life. As a teenager, he ran errands for the Gambino crime family, quickly gaining a reputation for fearlessness. Gotti rose through the ranks with charisma and brutality. In 1985, he orchestrated the assassination of his own boss, Paul Castellano, outside a Manhattan steakhouse, a bold move that made him head of the Gambino family, the most powerful mafia clan in America. Unlike other mob bosses who kept a low profile, Gotti craved attention. He wore expensive suits, styled his hair perfectly, and strutted through New York as if untouchable. The press nicknamed him the Dapper Don. When trials failed to convict him, he became the Teflon Don. Crowds cheered his name outside courtrooms. He was a celebrity gangster. But behind the glamour was ruthless violence. Gotti ran racketeering, gambling, drug trafficking, and loan sharking operations that brought in hundreds of millions. He silenced enemies with fear, and anyone who crossed him ended up dead. His downfall came from within. His underboss, Sammy the Bull Gravano, turned informant and testified against him. In 1992, Gotti was convicted of murder and racketeering. Sentenced to life without parole, he spent his final years in prison, dying of cancer in 2002. For some, Gotti was the last true mafia boss, feared, flamboyant, and unforgettable. Frank Lucas, the American gangster. Frank Lucas was born in 1930 in rural North Carolina, raised in poverty during the Great Depression. Moving to Harlem, he fell into crime young, robbing, hustling, and learning the street game. But Lucas had bigger ambitions than petty crime. In the late 1960s, he saw the devastation heroin was causing in New York. Instead of working under the Italian mafia, Lucas decided to cut out the middlemen. He went straight to the source, the Golden Triangle in Southeast Asia. Through a secret pipeline during the Vietnam War, Lucas smuggled heroin into the U.S., hidden in the coffins of dead American soldiers. This daring move made him one of the most powerful drug lords in America. His heroin, branded Blue Magic, was purer and cheaper than anything on the streets. At his peak, Lucas was making $1 million a day and living like royalty. Mansions, cars, and even a pet lion. But his success came with violence. Addicts flooded New York, crime spiked, and federal agents closed in. In 1975, the DEA raided his New Jersey home, finding over $500,000 in cash hidden inside a dog kennel. Lucas was sentenced to 70 years in prison, but after cooperating with authorities, he served less time. Later in life, he claimed to regret the destruction he caused, even as Hollywood immortalized his story in the film American Gangster. He died in 2019, remembered as both a street legend and a symbol of ambition gone dark.